So one of our most popular YouTube videos is one that's called Blend Multiple Images in Photoshop. It's got over 900,000 views, but it was recorded in 2016. And I can tell you that Photoshop has changed a lot since 2016. So what I've done is refilm it for you, okay? So in this video, we are gonna look at blending multiple images together in Photoshop. It could be for double exposures, triple exposures, and in fact, the skills that you learn in this video, you can apply to varied things in Photoshop. It really is a good tutorial to help you learn this complex program. So in a nutshell, we are going to turn these three images into this image here. You've also got access to all of the images that we are using in this tutorial. Link in the description, click on that link, go and download them so that you've got them and you can work along with me. So let's go into Photoshop and have a look at what we are going to create. So here is the final result. This is what we're going to be producing. Now every good image like this starts with a good idea. Now in case you don't know, I used to teach in colleges and schools, and the kids used to obviously leave from their GCSE and A-level results and go off into the real world, whether that was to university, to the workplace, generally into the city, you know, to continue their life, shall we say. And that's what this image is supposed to represent, okay? We've got a man, and they're on their journey into the big wide world and into the city. And this is them effectively looking into that future. So we've got the eyes poking through and they're just staring straight at us. We've got this river, and the river actually is just there to kind of give us a perspective, a lead in to the city in the background, the city skyline there in the background. And there you go, there's the idea. And I think that if you are going to make these double exposures, multiple exposures, you should always start with an idea and then maybe do a sketch and then figure out how you're going to create the end result. This is obviously what we're going to do. Now firstly, what I want you lot to do is to clear your Photoshop area. So shut everything down like that. So don't forget that you have got all of these images. Make sure that you have saved them somewhere for easy access, and that is where we're going to start. Okay, so here are my files. I've got them in a nice neat folder called Blend Multiple Exposures, and firstly we're going to open up the man image. We do that by clicking, dragging and dropping into our workspace there, or of course you can go File, Open, find the file and open it up that way. I'm going to press Control and 0 to full screen it so we can see it better. And effectively what we've got to do is we've got to separate this man from the background so that we've just got a picture of the man. So to do that, firstly, I need to change the background here into a layer, and I'm going to do that by clicking on the lock symbol. Then I'm going to double click on the word layer, and I'm going to type in man to rename it man. Then we're going to use the object select tool to select the person. The object select tool is over here in your toolbox, and it's in this set of tools here, which is your magic wand, quick selection tool, etc. And we're going to just click on object selection tool. Now you've got a few different ways to select objects in your image. One is to tick on object finder, and that will use Photoshop's AI, artificial intelligence, to look at the image and select the objects for you. That generally does a good job, and as you can see, mine was already ticked, so it's already done it. If I come over and hover my cursor over what you think the object is, in this case it's the person, you can see that it's done an absolutely fabulous job there. On other images you might need to draw a rectangle over the object, and that's where you select mode rectangle. And on other images you might need to do a lasso around the image. That's just drawing a lasso around whatever the object is, okay? As you can see, the automatic object finder in this particular case has done a good job. And the other thing that you need to make sure of is that in the options of your object tool, in this particular instance, you want hard edge ticked, and that will give us a nice clean hard edge. Obviously, if you're selecting an object and you want a soft edge, you tick that off. So we quite simply come over the man and click here, click on it, and there you go. You can see we've got a nice selection around the edge of that man. Then it's the background that I want to delete, so I need to inverse that selection. So I'm going to go select, inverse, and then all you need to do is hit the backspace and it will delete whatever is in that selection. Clearly you need to make sure that the layer is selected, but there's only one layer in this. So I'm going to press backspace and there you go, it deletes the background. Now, very important that you deselect your selections when you no longer need them anymore. So I'm going to press Control and D to deselect that. And then I'm going to add a nice solid white background by using a solid color adjustment layer. To do that, I'm going to come down to my adjustment layer icon down the bottom here, click on solid color, select white, click OK, drag and drop that underneath the man, and there you go. Let's hide the man, bring it back, hide and bring it back. As you can see quite clearly, we have got a nice cleanly cut out man on a white background. Okay, now we need to put the river image on top of the man image and blend it through. So to do that, we're going to open up our folder again. We're going to grab the river image. I'm going to drag and drop it on top of this picture here. I'm going to click the tick at the top here to apply it. And then I'm going to make sure that the river image here is above the man image. It needs to sit above it. So I'm just going to click and hold, drag and drop it to the top here. Now what we need to do is clip the river image to the man image underneath, okay? And to do that, we're going to right click on a blank part of the layer and we're going to go to create clipping mask here. Now what we can see in the image is that the river image has effectively stuck to the man image underneath. And that's what happens when you clip an image to the image underneath. It clips it to the pixels of the layer underneath. So I'm just going to click on the move tool at the top here for a minute. And that's only so that the object select tool that I was previously selected on stops doing weird stuff. All right. So you can see here, look, that the river image is stuck to the man image underneath and nothing else. And that's because we deleted the background. So the only pixels in this man image are the pixels that show the man. So that is why this image here, the river, is sticking to the man. So it's a really cool effect. And now what I want to do is take the opacity down of this river image just so that I can see through it a little bit and place it wherever I want it to go. So I'm going to come over, make sure that your river image is selected, click the opacity slider and bring it down so that we can see through it. Something like that will do. And now we've got to resize and move this river image to where we want it to sit on the face. So to do that, we are going to use free transform. That is Control and T or Command and T if you're on a Mac. So I'm going to press Control and T here like that. Now I'm in free transform, and that means that I can resize it and place it exactly where I want it to be. So I kind of want the river, like I say, it's just there to give a perspective, to give leading lines, if you like, through the frame or through the body on the man here. So it's going to lead me into the city in the background. So I'm going to place the center point, if you like, where the 2 points of the river meet. I'm going to put that just above the eyes, and then maybe let's see if I can make it a little bit bigger. And that is so the dark parts of the river, you know, like the reflections here on the water and the buildings, they go through the eyes. Yeah, so the eyes sit in the middle of these dark parts. So I think something like that is all right. Might come a little bit bigger and go somewhere about there for now. And then you can click the tick at the top, or you can press enter, and that will apply your free transform. Now what we're going to do is remove sections of this river image that we don't want. Let's go into Photoshop and do that. So firstly, I don't want this dark bit down the bottom of the image here, of this river image, and I want it to blend up a little bit softer into, well, the face. So to do that, I'm going to add a mask to the river image and basically mask off the sections that I don't want. So with the river image selected, I'm going to click on the layer mask icon down the bottom here. I'm going to grab a brush. I'm going to make sure I've got black as my foreground color here. Up in the opacity, I'm thinking about 40 odd % for opacity, and the flow this time, okay? Now with the flow set a bit lower, it means I can hold my finger on the mouse button and then continue to go backwards and forwards, you know? Whereas if your flow is at 100%, you'd have to lift off the mouse and go back on the mouse, etc. So you're taking it off in layers, if you like. But I'm going to do it with the flow down so that I can do it more softer, basically, and just keep going over and over and over the mask until I get a desired effect, okay? So then I'm going to come down to the image, hold down the Alt and right click, make sure I've got a really soft brush and quite a big brush actually, like that. That is Control and Option on a Apple Mac. And again, you just move your mouse left and right and up and down to get bigger and smaller or softer or harder brush. And let's go. Let's see what happens if I continue to go backwards and forwards on here. Yeah, it's working all right. But you know what? I think I need to have the opacity a little bit more just for the bottom bit. Just for the bottom bit, save me time. That's better. And now I need to blend it in a little bit further at the top. So now I want to bring the opacity down. And here we go. You can see what's happening now. I don't actually want it on the nose, so I'm going to blend it upwards like that. And then I'm going to blend it upwards into the cheeks, just like that. Okay, that's not bad. Let's just come up into the nose a little bit more. Okay, good. Now what I need to do is take away the sky part of this river image, because obviously that's where I'm going to be putting the buildings in, all right? So to do that, we need to bring the opacity of this image back to 100%. Then I need to select the image, not the mask, and that is because we are going to be using the quick selection tool, taking a selection from the image. So you need to make sure that you've got the image selected and not the mask, otherwise it won't work. Then I'm going to come over to the quick selection tool this time. So it's in your toolbox, it's in this section of tools, and we come down to quick selection. I'm going to come over to the sky and I'm going to click within it, and there you go. You can see that it is selected now just the sky of this image. Now before I mask out that section, the sky of the buildings there, I just want to bring the edge of that selection into the buildings a little bit more, just so that I can make sure that I've got a nice clean cut there. To do that, I'm going to come over and click on select and mask here. And if you're not seeing red, like what I'm seeing here, you quite simply click on view, go to overlay, and then you make sure that you've got about 50% opacity selected there. And what we're going to do is we're going to move the shift edge slider here, all right? But first, I'm going to press the Control and the plus key and zoom in so that I can come to the top so we can see this section here, all right? So if we go back to 0 on the shift edge slider, so that's what it's selected there, okay? It's actually all right, to be honest. It's not done a bad job at all, but let's just make sure that that selection is inside them buildings a little bit more. So we grab the shift edge slider, and if you look at this section here, you can see it happening. If I slide it right the way to the top, you can see that it's coming a little bit into the buildings a little bit further, but I don't want it that much. I think probably about 30 odd % there will be about right. And then down under output settings there, make sure you've clicked the drop down. You want to output to a selection, and we're going to click OK. And there we go. We've got our selection, and now it's a little bit into the buildings. I'm going to press Control and 0 to full screen it. So now we've got our selection and it's going into the buildings a little bit. All we need to do is fill it with black on the mask, okay? So we need to make sure this time that the mask is selected on the river layer. So we're going to select the mask there. Now you can fill it with black with a brush, you know, just grab the brush, black paint, and you can fill it with black there, but there is an easier way. We're going to press Shift and F5 and the fill box appears under contents. Obviously we want to fill it with black. Under mode we want normal, opacity 100%. We're going to click OK, and there you go, it fills it with black and effectively hides the sky of the river image. And we're now finished with that selection, so we need to tell Photoshop by deselecting it. That is Control or Command and D. And then you may have some areas that the selection didn't pick up and you're going to need to mark them out manually. I don't think I have actually, but I'm going to press Control and the plus symbol to zoom in a little bit. Hold down the space bar and then come round to the top. We could mask this area, it's a little bit untidy there. Oh yeah, and now we've got a line going across the top there where it didn't quite mask that out. So again, we're going to make sure that we're on the mask of the river image. This time we're just going to grab a brush. We're going to make sure that we've got black paint selected there. I'm going to take the opacity now right up to 100%, the flow right up to 100%. I'm going to change my brush size and make a bit of a harder brush this time. Actually, something about there. And then a little bit of a smaller brush, and then we can come in. We don't have to be too accurate, you know, something like that. Here we go. That's better. And then up to the top here, we can get rid of this. Make a bigger brush, make our life easier. And there we go, Control and 0 to full screen it. Now what we need to do is prepare for the buildings at the top there. So the buildings at the top of the head. So to do that, what we need to do is give ourselves, first of all, more space in this canvas. We need to give us more space at the top, and then we need to delete the top part of the head, the hair, if you like, so that we've got it all ready to put the building in. Okay, so let's go into Photoshop and do that. Now, the first thing that I'm going to do actually is I'm going to select the image, the river image here, and I'm going to take the opacity down to get an effect that I want. So I think about here, you can adjust that. You can have it stronger if you want to, or less stronger. I mean, it's entirely up to you, but I'm thinking about there actually. We can adjust that later. And then I'm going to click the crop tool. I'm going to grab the crop tool here. I'm going to make sure that we've got cleared selected here, if you like, so that nothing's, there's no ratio selected. I'm going to make sure that delete cropped pixels is ticked off and that content aware is ticked off, and it's actually grayed out there, so that's good. Then I'm going to grab the top bar of the cropped square here, and I'm going to drag it upwards. Okay, now you see where that rule of thirds line is there. I think if we leave that roughly at the top of the image, it gives us roughly enough space to work with. So I'm going to do that like that and release. You can always give yourself a bit more if you want to, and we can always crop it at the end as well if you want to, but that's about right, I think. Now I'm going to click the tick at the top to apply that crop, and then I'm going to press Control and 0 to full screen the image again. Okay, that's not bad at all. Now what we need to do is remove this section of the head. So to do that, we're going to take a selection from the mask of the river image, because as you can see, we've already got this selection in the river image, so we might as well use it, you know. So we're going to come over to the mask of the river image. I'm going to press down the Control key, it's a command if you're on a Mac, and as you can see, you get the selection symbol appear. And then I'm going to click on the mask. And what that's effectively doing is giving me a selection of the white parts of that mask. Now what we need to use is this top part of the selection only. So we're going to remove this from this selection, and then we're going to add this part to the selection. To do that, we're going to come over and we're going to grab our lasso tool, and then I'm going to come down to my image, and basically I want to remove this down the bottom here. So I'm going to hold down the Shift key, and as you can see, it brings up a plus sign. Okay, so if I click that and then draw all the way around this area and release, there you go, it effectively removes that bit down the bottom for me. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add this top bit here, and for that I'm going to hold down the Alt key, and that gives me the minus symbol. And it's a little bit confusing because it's sort of saying it's going to remove that selection, but it's not. It's going to add to this part, the top part. So I'm going to click here, I'm going to go all the way around to the top, come back round to here, come back to the beginning again, release, and there we go. So now I've got all of the top selected. And as you can see, there is like a little circle here, like that, but it's not gonna do anything because we're actually just working within here. So you might see other little bits like that all over. It's not going to make a difference. All you want is this bit in the middle here really selected and everything above it. And then we can use that selection to mask off the man. So we need to now select the man image and quite simply click the add layer mask icon down the bottom here. And there you go. You can see that it's now removed the top part of that head for us. Hasn't actually removed it. Technically it's hidden it because that's what a mask does. There could well be some bits left over. I don't think there is on this one, but I'm going to press the Control and the plus symbol. No, this one's quite good. Let's hold down the space bar and move it all the way to the top. Okay, so there is nothing left over here. Let's have a good look round. If there was, all you would do is grab the brush, black paint, and brush over the mask to get rid of anything that was left. But it's not on this image, so I'm going to press Control and 0 to full screen it again. Now, if you're liking this tutorial, why don't you come and see us at theschoolofphotography.com, where we have got a very in-depth, step-by-step, structured course, which is going to ensure you learn Photoshop properly and ensure that you retain the knowledge forever. We've also got loads of other courses such as photography course, Lightroom, wildlife, macro, landscape, fine art, and the list just goes on. So if you're looking to learn photography in general and specific genres of photography, then come over and see us. Okay, let's get back on with the tutorial. So now we are going to add the city skyline. So let's go and do that now. So let's open up the folder of images again, and there it is. Now before we drag and drop this onto this image, we really want to click on the blank area of our layers panel so we've got no layers selected, because if I drag and drop this on top here, let's just click the tick at the top. What you can see is it's now clipped. I've now put it in the middle of the river layer and the man layer, and it's in the middle of all that clipping, and it's just not what we want. So I'm going to press Control and Z to undo that. And actually what you want to do is click on a blank area of your layers panel, and when you've got no layers selected, it will automatically add that layer to the top. Now, of course, you can drag and drop it to the top and unclip it and do all of that stuff, but it's much easier if you just make sure you've got nothing selected here. And then we drag and drop on top of our image, and there we go, it's at the top here now. That's exactly where we want it. And then I'm just going to click the tick at the top there to apply it. You can press enter if you want to as well. And now we're going to resize this and kind of place it on top of the head how we see fit. So I'm first of all going to take the opacity down so I can see through the image a little bit. And now we're going to free transform the image and make it bigger and basically make it fit within the top of that head. So to free transform, it's Control or Command if you're on a Mac, press the T. Then, as you can see, we can move it about willy-nilly. I'm going to press the Control and the plus key to zoom in just slightly and bring it down a little bit like that. Here we go. Okay, so let's see what we can do here. Maybe a little bit like that, a little bit bigger, maybe. Now what I like to do is try and get like some straight lines, you know, coming out from the edge of the, out from the edge of the head. So let's find some buildings that it's gonna match quite well with. I mean, that don't look bad there. Come up a little bit further. Let's make it a little bit bigger, I think. And then we'll have that sitting on the edge there. I think still a little bit bigger. I want that sitting on the edge like that, so we can bring that building out from the top there. And then maybe I could cut it from here. So let's see if we can go a little bit bigger actually. And it looks about right. I can cut it sort of about there, a little bit bigger. And there we go. So I can cut it from this building going up here. and from this building going up there. Let's just zoom out, see if we've got enough space at the top. Ooh, just about there, look. So with that in mind, I will make it a little bit smaller and come to about there. There we go. Just have a quick check. I zoom in. Yep, I can cut up there like that, and I can cut that about there like that. Okay. Use the nudge keys to get it where you want it to be. Zoom out to have a look at it again. And I think that looks all right. So I'm going to click the tick at the top. I'm going to press Control and 0 to full screen it again. Now, what we want to do is remove the bits of this city skyline that we don't want. In fact, what you're going to do is hide it, not remove it. You're going to hide it using a mask. So we can use the mask of the man layer to get a selection and then apply that to the city skyline. So let's do that. So what we're going to do is we're going to come over to the man layer here, and we're going to hold down the Control key, and there you can see that the selection symbol appears when I do that. And we're going to click on the mask of the man. Okay, so let's click on that. And as you can see, it is taking a selection from just the white part of the man layer mask. And then we're going to use this selection and we are going to apply it to the city skyline and add a mask to that and effectively hide all of that stuff underneath here like that. And now what we need to actually do is inverse that selection so that we can add a mask to it and basically hide all of this stuff underneath. So to inverse the selection, we're going to go select inverse, and now when we add a mask, it's going to mask out all of this stuff down the bottom here. So make sure we've got city skyline selected, click the add layer mask icon, and there we go. We've removed all of the city skyline from the face. Do not worry about these little areas here because we are going to tidy all of this mask up in a minute anyway, but right now we want to erase the sky. So to do that, what we need to do is select the image of the city skyline. So we're not on the mask anymore. We need to bring the opacity of it up to 100%, and then we need to select the sky. Now you can do that with the quick selection tool or the lasso, and there's lots of different tools, but let's try using the object tool and see if it selects the sky for us. So we come over to the toolbox, we're going to click on our quick selection tool in this current scenario, and then that will bring up the rest of the tools within that tool group, and we're going to select object selection tool. I've got object finder ticked at the top here, so you just saw that spinning, so that's automatically trying to find objects within that layer. The other thing I want to make sure that is selected is this here, hard edge. Okay, so I want hard edge selected so that when it takes a selection, it's clearly going to give me a hard edge. Okay, right, let's come over to the image. Oh, and there you go, look, see? It can pick up all these different objects, which I think is absolutely fantastic, but we want the sky, all right? So you hover over the sky so it goes red like that, we click, and there you go, it's given us a lovely selection of the sky. Now all we need to do is fill that selection with black on the mask, okay? So firstly, let's come over and select the mask of the city skyline layer there. To fill the selection with a color, we're going to press Shift and F5. You can also go Edit, Fill if you want to. From Contents, we're going to select black, mode normal, opacity 100. We're going to click OK. And there you go, it fills that selection with black and effectively hides the sky for us. And now we're finished with that selection, so we press Ctrl and D to deselect it. And now all that's left to do is to tidy it up and make it look, you know, a bit more like we want it to look, which means getting rid, oh, let's just click the move tool at the minute. You can see that, look, because I've got object selected, it just does all of this weird stuff. So I'm going to select the move tool for a second, and we effectively need to mask out all of this stuff around the edge. All right, so I'm going to press Control and the plus key to zoom in a little bit, hold down the space bar, move the image to where I want it to be, and then I'm going to use the polygonal lasso tool to get a nice straight line down the edge of this building here. So that tool is over here where the lassos are. So I'm going to click on the lasso tool, I'm going to select polygonal lasso tool. I'm going to click on the edge of my head, and then I'm going to come up and click on this line, and then I'm going to go right the way up like this. I'm going to hold down the shift key actually, and that will give me a lovely straight line. Click, and then all I need to do is go all the way around, close that selection, press shift and F5 again, fill that selection with black just like I did before. Again, just to remind you, in case you've been clicking on stuff, you need to do it on the mask here, the city skyline mask. Click OK, and it hides that section. Control and D to deselect it. And then we just need to do the same on the other side of the head. So again, polygonal lasso tool here, and this time we're going to come down from this building. So I'm going to click here, go right up to the top of this building, click, and it goes in a little bit here. Click again, and there we go. Get a nice straight edge around the edge of this building, go all the way around, and in this case I'm going to go into the head, come back, close the selection. The reason I went into the head there is because I want to get rid of this section as well. Now remember, we're only working on the mask of the city skyline layer, so it's not going to affect the man here. Shift F5, contents black, all the same settings again, click OK, and there you go, it masks all that side out as well. Press Control and deselect, and then if you want to at this stage, we can tidy up this area here and this area here. Now because that is the man image, we need to select the mask of the man image like that. So we're going to click on the mask of the man image. I'm going to select the brush tool. I'm going to come over to my image, make sure the opacity is on 100, which it is, yep. Alt and right click, and I don't want a soft brush, so I'm going to go for something like that, about a 90% hardness of a brush. And there we go, I'm going to click in there. Lovely, come over to this side, just do that, and there you go. I'm just going to hold down the space bar, and I'm going to have a look round the top of this image, because sometimes you might have some remnants of the sky behind, but in this case we don't seem to have that, which is really cool. Oh yes, there is, look, there's a little bit there. Okay, so what I'm going to have to do is resize my brush, and this time I'm going to get a very soft brush like that. And now I'm working back on the city skyline, so I need to select the city skyline mask, and we're just going to tidy these little areas up. You don't have to be that accurate, you know. So let's have a bigger brush. Let's take the opacity down as well, just so that it's a little bit softer. Now we don't have to be that accurate like I just said. Okay, so let's change the brush size, so it's just, you know, it's just a little tidy up. Just have a look round, see if there is little bits of that sky left. If there is, you just remove them. And don't worry if you go into the building as well, like that. You can press Control and Z to undo that last stroke and go over it again. Like I say, it's not going to have too much of an effect on the final result. So it's just a little bit of a tidy up where you think necessary. Okay, that'll do us. That's a nice little tidy up. Control and 0 to full screen it. And there we go. As you can see, we've basically got what you would say the raw material in place, haven't we? We've got the face there with the river going through the face and through the eyes, leading us in to the city skyline, which is coming out of the head. Now what we're going to do is we're going to add some effects, and we're going to bring them eyes through a little bit more, and the ears actually, because we want this man to be looking at us. So that's what we're going to do right now. So firstly, I'm going to group all of what we've done so far, except for the background layer, the color fill layer. So we select the top layer there, the city skyline. We hold down the shift key. We're going to select the man layer there. I'm going to press Control or Command and press G. I'm going to double click on the word group, and we're going to name this one Man, River, City. Press Enter, and there we go. I can now hide that group and bring it back. All right, so now let's bring all of the colors together in this image. As you can see, and this is what happens when you're blending multiple exposures together, Very rarely are they going to be exactly the same color, the same lighting, the same tone, etc. Now, when that happens, you've got to color grade the whole lot. So you've got to go over the top of it all and change the color of everything, okay? We're going to do that using a gradient map. And we're going to use the photographic toning legacy gradients that you installed in the last lesson of this course. So make sure you've done that lesson, and then you will have the gradient maps that we're going to use. Of course, you can use any gradient map. You don't have to use the ones that I'm going to show you, but that's the ones that I'm going to use in this video. So to add a gradient map, we're going to come down to the adjustment layer icon here, and we're going to go to gradient map and click on that. And there we go. Like I say, you can add any gradient map and any color that you want, and it will still look all right. But for us, we're going to click on this drop down arrow here. We're going to come to our presets. Here's all your gradient map presets. And here's the photographic toning one that we added in the previous lesson. Now, I think these are really cool for this type of image. So let's just click around and have a little play. And that one looks quite good, but I think the one that I was practicing with before was this one here. Yeah, sepia 1. So if you hover over any of these presets, it gives you the name. So sepia 1's the one I was using before, and that's the one I like. So let's just click on them arrows at the top here to hide the properties box. And now I'm going to add a curves adjustment layer, put it above everything, and put an S-curve in there and an S-curve boost contrast. So that's what I'm going to do and see if it looks good. To do that, we're going to click the adjustment layer mask icon down the bottom here. We're going to go to curves, and then I'm going to put an S-curve in and see what happens. And that's not looking too bad, as a matter of fact. Now we are going to go and refine and adjust as well a bit later on, and that's the beauty of adjustment layers. You know, we can go back and refine and adjust. But I think for now, that on its own, let's hide that effect and bring it back again. And that's, yeah, I like that as it is. So I'm going to hide the properties box. And now what I want to bring through is the eyes. If we look at this image, you know, we can hardly see the eyes. And that's a really important part of an image with a face that's looking right at you. You want to see the eyes, right? So I want to bring them eyes through, and also the ears as well. I want to bring the ears through a little bit because I don't quite like the way that that river image is sitting on the ears. So effectively, I need to hide sections of the river image so that we can see through it and see the face image underneath. And we do that by using the mask of the river image. So I'm going to open up this group. I'm going to come down to the river mask. And now you can see why it's beneficial to name your layers wherever possible so that we know where we're going. So it's the river layer mask. Then I'm going to select the brush tool, black paint as my foreground color. And then I'm going to take the opacity down to about 20%. I want to be really soft as I do this. Let's take the flow down as well to about 20%. And then we're going to come over to the image, Alt and right click. Make a fairly big brush like that, but you actually want a really soft brush as well. So 0 on the hardness and about that size like that. And just to remind you, that is Alt and right click on a PC and Control and Option on a Mac, and then you just go left and right, up and down for size and softness of your brush. Now let's paint over these eyes. And there we go. We can see them revealing themselves. Look at that. Very nice and very soft as well, which is exactly what we want. Okay, that's good. I'm going to press Control and plus to zoom in a little bit so I can see it clearer. There we go. Very good indeed. So that's now blending out quite nicely. Let's make a smaller brush just to get them eyes through. There we go. Let's increase the opacity here and the flow a little bit. There we go, just like that. And it's only in the eyes that I want that. And now I'm going to do the same for the ears, just to bring these ears through. I'm going to take the opacity down slightly, and then a bit of a bigger brush, and there we go. I don't want them all the way through so that they're like clear ears, clear seen ears. I just want it to be a little bit more clearer that they are ears because it's a head. Okay, that looks good. Control and 0 to full screen it. And you know what? I think that I may well have gone a bit strong on the eyes there. So to bring them back a little bit, I'm just going to flick back to white. You can use the X key if you want to. So now I'm going to paint back white, but really, really softly. So let's come down on the flow and the opacity. And then let's just paint a little bit of white around the edge. Yeah, there we go. That's good. Now what we're going to do is we are going to enhance the blending of the face and the buildings in the background and just make them look a bit more as if they should match. Because if you're looking at this now, you can see that the buildings in the background are a bit more contrasty than the face. Maybe there's not enough contrast in the river overlay. And now's the chance to kind of get all of that looking like it should, like it's all one picture. So let's start with the man layer. Let's start with the man. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come and click on the man layer to select it. I'm going to hold down the Alt key, that is the Option key on an Apple Mac. I'm going to click and hold on that man layer and I'm going to drag it so that it's underneath the gradient map. And you can see that them two arrows have appeared on my cursor. And what that means is that I am copying this layer. I'm making an exact copy of this layer and I'm placing it where I want it to be, which is there. So let's release. And there you go, it's called it man copy. So I've taken a copy of that man, I've brought it out of the group and put it underneath the gradient map. Then I'm going to change the blend mode of this copy layer to screen so that only the light parts underneath come through. And that again is enhancing the contrast of the man layer. So let's go to the blend mode of this layer, which is this drop down here. We're going to come down to screen like that. And then I'm going to take the opacity of this right the way down to about there. So what I've done there is double up effectively on the man image. And now I can grab the river image and play about with the opacity of that one to bring that one through a little bit more. And because this layer is on a screen blend mode, it will allow the lighter parts underneath to shine through. And in this case, it's going to be the river image. So I'm going to select the river image and then I'm going to grab the opacity slider and I'm going to muck about with it until I get what I want. All right. So that looks about right. I mean, if I went right the way up, yeah, see, it looks too weird. And if I went down, it doesn't look good at all. So it is roughly in the 70s there, 70%. So let's leave it there for now. So now we can start clearly seeing parts of the buildings in this river layer. And if I want to now, I can come back up to the man copy layer and I can change the opacity a little bit more if I want to. Yeah, so let's change that opacity and see if it makes a difference. And I don't think it's making that much of a difference. So I think I'm still going to leave it around about there like that. Click the drop down to hide that slider. Now, of course, you can continue to adjust that and get it to how you look. You know, your style might not be like what I want it to look here, and that's absolutely fine. And of course, we can go back and change these anytime we want. We just need to save it as a PSD file. We can come back tomorrow, next week, and readjust as we see fit. But I'm going to leave it there for now. And the one thing now that's just jumping out at us is the buildings in the background, this city skyline. It's very contrasty. It looks totally different to the rest of the image. So we need to reduce the contrast of it. And I'm going to do that using a curves adjustment layer, and I'm going to clip it to the city skyline. So firstly, I need to select the city skyline. I'm going to come down to my adjustment layers panel here. I'm going to select curves. And because I only want the effect of this curves layer to adjust the city one underneath, I'm going to clip it to it. So I'm going to right click in the blank section of the layer like that and go create clipping mask. All right. Now let's use curves to take down the contrast. Now I can grab this point right down the bottom here and I can lift it up, and look at that. That's reducing the contrast already. And then I can grab this other point at the top and pull it down, and that is starting to match the contrast of the other images below. I can pull down and up here if I want to, And that in fact don't look too bad at all. And what that does, pulling that point up right down on the corner here, is it mutes off the blacks. So if you've got any blacks in your image, that will make them grey effectively and mute the blacks. And that's exactly what we want to do, because now if you look, it's all looking roughly the same. And of course, again, you can go back and change that adjustment layer whenever you see fit. But for now, I am going to just have that. I'm going to click the arrow there to hide the curves properties box. And there you go. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a background to this image and do any refinements that I think is necessary. Okay. So firstly, I'm going to group these layers here by clicking on the man copy there, holding down the shift key, clicking on the top layer there, the curves layer. That selects all the layers in between. Press Ctrl and G to group them. Double click on the word group, and I'm going to call this effects. So now I can close down the group underneath here so that we're nice and neat. And now I've got this group. So firstly, let's hide the effects. I've got this group here, the man, river, and the city, like that. And then I've got the effects that we're putting over the top, just like that. So now let's create a background, and I'm going to do that by just adding another color fill adjustment layer and changing the color of it. All right, so we're going to come down to the adjustment layer icon down the bottom. We're going to go solid color. Now I need to drag this layer above the color fill one here. I need to put it underneath everything. So for now, I just need to apply it by clicking OK. Then I'm going to click and hold and drag it so it goes underneath the rest of the groups here. And there you go. I mean, if you want a solid dark color like that, you can have it, but I don't want that. I'm going to double click back on the properties box here, and then I'm going to come over to the image and select a color within the image here. So I'm thinking somewhere about there would be nice. And we can always change that in a minute actually. So let's just use that color and click OK. And then I'm going to create a kind of glow going around the edge of the head. And to do that, I'm going to select the mask of this new color fill layer. I'm going to grab the brush, grab some black paints as my foreground color, have a low opacity and a low flow. I think that's about right actually where they are. And then come down to the image. I'm going to have a really big brush, I think, with a very soft edge. So something like that. And then I'm going to quite simply paint just outside the head, you know? So it's almost as if you're fanning from inside the head outwards, and it will start to create a kind of glow. And actually, to speed up the process, I'm going to make mine a little bit stronger, but you can do yours however you want to, all right? So you can see there that that is starting to fan out from the head. Let's take that flow right up to 100% actually, and then have a lower opacity. That might be easier for us. Yep, there we go. Now, if you think you go too far, which I think I have, you just flick back to white paint, change the opacity to whatever you want. Let's take that down a little bit further. And then you can come back in and soften it off however you want to, okay? And of course, you just flick back to black and white until you get a desired effect. Okay, that looks all right for now. And at this point, you can also change the color. So I can double click on the properties of the color fill, and then we can start mucking around. I mean, that looks quite cool. If I come down to this color here, that don't look too bad at all. And what's actually happening here is it's now mixing in with the gradient map that we placed above it, the gradient map that's in this effects here, and it's creating these sort of dark blends in between. So let's just have a little muck about here and just see where we can go. I'll go a little bit extreme actually for this video, so probably about there. Like that, click OK. Now, the very last thing that's annoying me with this image is the harshness of these buildings on the buildings in the background. You know, it's like you can see a white outline. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to blend the city skyline over the top of that white line, and that will just soften it. I know it sounds a bit weird because the city skyline is in the background, but I'm going to do it so softly that it looks like that white line is not there. So press Control and the plus to zoom in. Maybe not that much, like that. And there we can see it, look, it's just a bit too harsh. So what I need is the mask of the city skyline layer here, and then I'll just paint white on it over these lines, and hopefully it will blend in a bit. So let's open up the Man River City group, grab the mask of the city skyline. So now I'm selected on that mask. We're on a brush, we're on white as a foreground color. I'm on a very low opacity, as you can see at the top there. And let's see where we go with that, all right? And there we go. It is actually taking away that white line quite well. Yep, that's good. I mean, if I go back in my history, back to about there, you can see that it's softening it off. Let's go back to here and then go back to the end. And then we're getting a nice soft edge now. I need to click the mask again. I need to make a smaller brush. And I think I'm going to go up on the opacity here, and I think I'm actually going to zoom in a little bit as well. There we go. I've just gone over a little bit there, so I'll press the X key to go back to black, and I can get rid of that. Press the X key again to go back to white, and then I'm just going to soften the edge all the way around here. We'll speed up the video for this bit. Okay, I think that looks better, so I'm going to press Control and minus to zoom out. And yeah, it's just taken that edge off. Look, it's just taken that edge off of them buildings and softened it off a little bit. So let's press Control and 0 to full screen it. And I think that is about it. Now, of course, you can go back now and you can refine any one of these layers, any one of the masks. You can go back into your effects. You can change the effects and, you know, get a desired effect. But I am happy with that, and I'm going to leave it there. All you would have to do after that is save it as a PSD so that you can go back and work on it later on in life if you need to. And of course, save it as a JPEG if you want to share it on social media, on your website or whatever. And if you're a member, we would love to see your examples of these images. Or if you're doing any more, you know, if you're using your own pictures and blending them together, then please share them on the members group. We love to see them. So I do hope that you've liked this tutorial. If you have, you need to do us a favor and click that like button, subscribe to our channel, share it with your friends, and please, please give us a comment. If you've liked this tutorial, we love to hear from you. It makes us feel good that there's people out there getting something from our content. So please leave us a comment. And don't forget about our full Photoshop course that we've got. And if you want to learn photography and Photoshop properly, come over and see us at theschoolofphotography.com.